Here's the truth the show keeps dodging. Bill and Dani aren't a storyline. They're a cautionary tale. Bill's decision-making continues to astonish. If secrecy were truly the goal, initiating a full-blown office makeout session with the blinds open and the door unlocked is certainly an innovative approach to getting caught. And Dani, whose judgment allegedly exists, appears determined to test its limits. Meanwhile, the supposed best friend dynamic between Naomi and Ashley has all the warmth of a frosty handshake. In contrast, Shanice and Ashley glide through scenes with an ease and compatibility that actually resemble friendship. One wonders why the show insists otherwise. Shanice herself remains tragically underutilized. That razor-sharp tongue could slice through half the cast's delusions in minutes, yet she's often relegated to the sidelines while chaos runs wild. Leslie, for example, pirouettes between Marcel and Ted with the confidence of someone who refuses to acknowledge reality, and the constant brandishing of Eva as a conversational trophy? Tiresome. She was an accident, not ammunition. Nicole and Carlton, surprisingly tolerable this week, provided brief relief. His barely concealed jealousy toward Kial said far more than his measured tone ever will. Still, he radiates early-stage fatal attraction energy. The true narrative thread remains Ted and Nicole, whose unresolved connection is rapidly becoming the show's most compelling long game. Whether Ted will actually follow through on his vow to win her back before the wedding anniversary is another matter entirely. Dani and Bill, on the other hand, continue to inspire collective exasperation. Their storyline is a masterclass in avoidable disaster. The Dupree women, as ever, treat confusion not as a flaw, but as a family tradition. Each one spirals in her own carefully curated brand of denial. Kat stands out, a walking proclamation of entitlement now forced to reckon with the shocking revelation that the universe does not, in fact, bend to her tantrums. A long overdue humbling. Ted, matching her intensity while maintaining dignity, remains one of the few adults in the room. Nicole, however, clings to the fantasy that she has risen above her feelings for Ted. Attempting to replace him with a conveniently mysterious man who may or may not have a family tucked away is a strategy doomed from inception. Dani continues to polish the veneer of a happy marriage, while Andre functions more as decor than spouse. Eventually, the family will piece together what is already obvious. Bill is carrying the entire narrative on his shoulders. Chelsea's relapse into self-sabotage is another slow-burn catastrophe, practically inviting heartbreak. Naomi drifts in a haze of half-truths and selective honesty. Calling her a lost cause may be charitable. And then there is Eva Tomas, glowing, composed, and entirely unbothered. She possesses the poise and confidence the others keep pretending to have. A breath of fresh air in a household built on recycled chaos. This series is a labyrinth of drama, contradiction, and delicious disorder. Every storyline is a mess, every character is in denial, and the result is utterly magnetic. Yet the writers remain committed to testing audience patience, pairing Dani with Bill, forcing Nicole with Carlton, and flirting with the notion of Ted ending up anywhere near Shishi. And heaven forbid the narrative allow yet another complication to wander Jacob's way. Against all odds, Ted and Shanice have emerged as the lone bright spot in a landscape otherwise littered with emotional pyrotechnics. Their chemistry appears refreshingly sincere, an unusual phenomenon in this particular ecosystem, and one can only hope Ted has finally severed his self-destructive attachment to Nicole. Shanice deserves better than to be collateral damage in his lingering indecision. Of course, any hope for peace evaporates the moment the leathers and the sweaters enter the scene. Eva, once again proving that discretion is her sworn enemy, saw fit to inform her mother that Ted is dating someone. Naturally, she feigned shock when this tidbit triggered the exact explosion anyone with a working pulse would expect. Cue the predictable whining and pleading for her mother not to cause chaos, an earnest request that has never been honored in the history of their dynamic. This is the hallmark of Eva's particular brand of sabotage, professed love for her father wrapped neatly in the reckless decision to hand his business to the last person who should ever receive it. Innocence is not the issue. A simple bottle of industrial-strength lip glue would suffice. Meanwhile, Bill, ever the visionary, is transparently terrified that Tomas will reveal his secret, hence the sudden promotion to junior partner. A dazzling display of panic masquerading as generosity. Then there's Haley, whose attempts to maneuver Andre raise questions about what exactly she hopes to extract from him. Interestingly, Andre looks better paired with Haley anyway, a fact that may or may not be influencing her strategic positioning. Concerns for Anita Dupree loom large. Her health casts a shadow over every interaction, and her own poetic lament, "He has been the rhythm at the center of my soul," lands with weight. Speculation swirls that Sharon's recent conversation with Anita may have included a symbolic passing of the torch. Elsewhere, the semantics of half-siblings, dutifully brandished by Kat and Eva, continue to grate. The distinction serves no purpose beyond needlessly fracturing relationships already complicated enough. Dani appears curiously willing to transition from wife to Bill's downgraded side arrangement, all while Derek radiates a kind of scrambled, dizzying energy that suggests trouble. Looney, for her part, is attempting to consume far more than she's equipped to handle, and the outcome promises to be spectacularly unflattering. Leslie, however, may have finally met a worthy opponent in Shanice. Their impending collision has all the makings of regrettable entertainment, and yet, the public outrage still skews disproportionately toward Nicole, while Leslie continues her stalking uninterrupted. A fascinating moral calculus. As for the latest eruption, had Eva simply resisted the urge to share news of Ted and Shanice, the ensuing inferno could have been avoided. But restraint has never been her chosen discipline. Her perpetual shuttle service of opinions, feelings, and everyone else's private matters is precisely why the tension between Kat and Eva remains delightfully unresolved. Her intentions may be pure, her execution is catastrophic. Perhaps the next round of chaos unleashed by Leslie will finally persuade her to value discretion. And so the ensemble continues, Eva dutifully playing co-conspirator, lofting the alley-oop, while Leslie dunks with theatrical flair. No one will blame her, of course. They rarely do. Here's what no one wants to admit about Dani Dupree's latest behavior. It's not tragedy. It's vanity dressed as victimhood. The Dani Dupree redemption tour has been canceled yet again, derailed, predictably, by Dani Dupree herself. The latest performance involves an enthusiastic display of flirting with Bill, a pastime she pursues with the desperation of someone clinging to the fading memory of being the beautiful Dani Dupree. The official excuse, of course, is her emotional fragility. The actual issue is far simpler: vanity, insecurity, and an unerring instinct for self-sabotage. And no, despite the theatrical atmosphere, cancer is not the culprit. Anita is the one with the diagnosis, yet Dani manages to weaponize the sympathy anyway. What makes this particular round of recklessness especially grating is her full awareness of Andre's history, his losses, his difficulty trusting, and the cautionary pleas not to hurt him. She accepted the responsibility, then eagerly set it on fire. This isn't mere romantic wandering, it's strategic betrayal disguised as innocence. The game she and Bill are playing is less flirtation and more a controlled demolition of every relationship within range. Meanwhile, Tomas appears poised to shed Kat with the ease of someone changing jackets. Consider it the opening act for the inevitable twist. And somewhere in the wings, either Jacob or Smitty seems destined not to survive the current case, an outcome telegraphed with the subtlety of a foghorn. Anita's unexpected lead on "His eye is on the sparrow" provided a rare moment of quiet dignity, promptly spoiled by the surrounding chaos. Derek, for instance, seems determined to transform into a full-blown caricature. Equal parts delusion, desperation, and looming costume changes. His evolving attachment issues make even the hospital's fluorescent lighting look stable by comparison. Leslie, however, remains the reigning monarch of delusion. The fantasy that Ted belongs to her persists with a tenacity that defies medical explanation. Shanice, refreshingly, has no intention of humoring it. Her verbal reminders, complete with offers to involve security and the nearest psychiatric ward, provide the only sensible responses Leslie has heard in months. The fact that Leslie continues barreling toward confrontation only highlights the depth of her disconnect from reality. And while Eva should not have shared Ted's dating life with anyone, silence would merely have delayed the inevitable. Proximity alone would have revealed it. Shared hallways, shared hospital spaces, and an ever-expanding list of places where Leslie's surveillance instincts thrive. Eva's primary offense is not disclosure, but inheriting the family tendency to talk too much. Somewhere amid the melodrama, questions of hypocrisy surface, particularly around the convenient secrecy surrounding BRCA results. Standards once rigidly enforced now appear remarkably flexible when the secrecy benefits the enforcers. Then there is the matter of personal safety. Leslie's escalation has reached the point where calling security or law enforcement seems less like overreaction and more like basic survival strategy. Her campaign of intimidation is nearing its expiration date, especially with Shanice refusing to retreat. Derek, having failed to insert himself into Ashley's new relationship, has now entered the quiet resignation phase. It's for the best. The plot has no remaining room for his brooding interruptions. Finally, the production insists on interrupting itself with detours entirely unrelated to the central emotional catastrophes, including, inexplicably, commentary about snowplowing. One almost admires the commitment to chaos. In summary, a collection of avoidable crises fueled by insecurity, delusion, and spectacularly poor decision-making. The temperature may be dropping behind the gates, but the melodrama, unfortunately, shows no signs of cooling. Here's the twist nobody wants to acknowledge. Bill's fantasies are far more revealing than his dialogue. Leslie Shanice continues her reign as the only person in the room entirely unbothered by consequences. A walking storm warning, she radiates the kind of danger that should inspire others, Derek, for instance, to take several respectful steps back. His unsettling blend of creepy and unhinged hardly helps. Shania would be wise to keep her guard up, because nothing good follows when these two orbit the same storyline. Of course, none of this chaos can unfold without Eva, who has generously appointed herself town crier for every secret involving Ted. Her commitment to oversharing is impressive, if one enjoys gasoline on an open flame. At this point, Eva has become the problem, not the messenger. Meanwhile, Tomas enjoys the illusion of power without the inconvenience of earning it. No blackmail required. Bill's strategic promotion keeps him right where he wants him, on a very short leash. The supposed twist was anything but. The writers underestimated the audience's ability to spot a telegraphed move from miles away. Elsewhere, the ominous cloud over Kakob thickens, as if fate refuses to wait for Naomi to reveal her genetic truth. Whether she is contemplating a preventative mastectomy or an oophorectomy, she certainly has more pressing matters on her mind than dramatic timing. And yet, for reasons known only to the household, the blinds remain perpetually open. After yesterday's events, one might assume the concept of privacy would finally take hold. But no. Then comes Carlton, radiating a vague but undeniable wrongness. Ted and Shanice don't trigger the same internal alarms, but Carlton seems constitutionally incapable of inspiring trust. And speaking of disorientation, Dani appears to be wandering through the storyline like someone who misplaced both her map and her common sense, dreaming, drifting, or losing direction entirely. Bill's fantasy life involving her does not help, nor does her persistent habit of appearing in his office uninvited and distributing kisses like promotional samples. A husband at home remains a detail she conveniently forgets. Leslie, meanwhile, remains lost in a personal fairy tale where she and Ted eventually ride off together. Reality, unfortunately for her, has other plans, and she will not enjoy the awakening when the truth about Ted and Shanice drops. Some viewers seem deeply committed to treating these fictional whirlwinds like personal battlegrounds, unable to comment civilly when encountering a differing opinion. The prescription is simple: scroll, breathe, and resist the urge to wage war over the emotional lives of characters who cannot hear you. The entertainment value lies in the drama on screen, not in reproducing it off-screen. As for romance, the allegedly unpopular pairing of Nicole and Carlton has its defenders. Both parties appear happy, Ted included, and one wonders why anyone insists on dragging misery back into the frame. And yes, Ted supposedly bought a new house, an intriguing choice given his penchant for hauling Shanice into dingy hotels, where Leslie regularly lurks like a moth outside a porch light. A more refreshing aspiration appears in the desire for at least one strong next-generation black couple. Dani and Andre, the underdog pair who weren't expected to survive, could easily become the modern Anita and Vernon, if the writers resist the comforting predictability of tearing them apart simply because every other soap has done it. Meanwhile, the mysterious procurement of blood for Haley's staged miscarriage now has a disturbingly neat explanation: the black market plasma ring, naturally. And hanging over everything is the lingering fear that Shanice will end up injured, especially given Ted's unresolved attachment to Nicole. In short, the gates to today's drama are about to open, and the spectacle promises to be lively, whether the characters are prepared for it or not. Are you invested in the Andre-Dani storyline and wondering why she keeps testing his sanity? Credit where it's due, the breast cancer storyline accomplished something rare in serialized drama. It nudged viewers toward overdue self-care. A negative mammogram is a gift, and a reminder that vigilance is not optional, particularly for Black women who are too often left to rediscover that truth the hard way. And then there is Dani, the show's resident expert in sprinting toward the past while insisting she's moving forward. Present her with a loyal husband and a supportive network of Duprees, and she will promptly bypass them all to run straight back to the man who once detonated her life without so much as a proper apology. Nothing says growth quite like returning to the person who humiliated you publicly and shattered your family. Inspirational. Meanwhile, romance was thriving elsewhere. Ted and Shanice delivered enough chemistry to fog the screen. Carlton and Nicole, on the other hand, existed. Barely. Nicole's sudden decision to vault forward with Carlton seemed less a declaration of passion and more a reflexive response to Ted and Shanice heating up the room. Momentum by proximity, one might call it, but nowhere was the emotional chaos more vivid than in Dani's latest performance. Blowing off a celebratory dinner with her daughter so she could dine with Bill, the ex-husband who once burned her life to the ground, was a bold choice, in the way walking into traffic is also a choice. Discussing her fears about Andre not wanting her if cancer changes her body was painful but understandable. Attempting to kiss Bill moments later, after he defended said husband, was less understandable. More, what exactly is she doing, than, ah yes, relatable human frailty. This isn't simply poor romantic judgment, it's character sabotage. Dani is being framed as a woman desperate to relive a familiar disaster, because the new happiness beside her feels uncharted and therefore untrustworthy. Her relationship with Andre began as purely physical, and now she doubts the emotional depth they've built. Fear has a way of distorting reality, especially when the specter of illness enters the room. Anyone who has faced the possibility of cancer knows the mind can sprint to the darkest conclusions, dragging logic behind it like discarded luggage. So the writers aren't merely pushing a predictable affair. They are sketching a portrait of a woman terrified of losing her body, her desirability, and the fragile stability she has finally begun to accept. Clinging to Bill is not about romance, it is about muscle memory. Old pain is familiar, new love is risky, and fear rarely inspires noble decision-making. Whether viewers see Dani as foolish, fragile, or catastrophically misdirected, the storytelling deserves acknowledgement. It captures the unsettling truth that in moments of fear, even intelligent people can sabotage themselves spectacularly. One can only hope Dani eventually steps away from the wreckage she's creating, tells the truth, and stops mistaking nostalgia for refuge. But until then, she remains the show's most reliable source of dramatic self-inflicted crisis. A woman begging the universe, in every possible way, to send help. If you're trying to decode why Kat is still waging war long after everyone else made peace, keep watching. The season's real mystery is not any romantic entanglement, but rather why Joey appears increasingly dipped in concentrated citrus. The makeup department seems determined to turn her into a walking Pantone swatch. Meanwhile, Nicole continues her strange routine of letting Ted chauffeur her straight into Carlton's arms. The first attempt required liquid courage. Now she seems to rely on Ted and Shanice as emotional booster cables. Her entire persona suggests someone incapable of casual intimacy, yet the show insists on staging her as a free agent in a plot clearly designed to do the opposite. Both couples' valiant performances at Moving On are equally unconvincing. Ted wears his longing for Nicole like a neon sign, and Nicole seems to have leased mental real estate exclusively to Ted. The charade is admirable only for its consistency. Then comes Dani, the perennial beneficiary of generous public defense, who rewards that goodwill by diving eagerly into a kiss with Bill. Not a stolen moment, an initiated one. And Bill, ever the loyal messenger, will no doubt sprint back to Andre with the update. Tomas, of course, saw everything. His ascension to full partner status now appears imminent, powered largely by other people's poor decisions. Kat continues her campaign as the resident villain in training. Her sustained vendetta against Eva survives long past its expiration date. The rest of the cast moved on ages ago. The hostility has never been about Tomas. She simply couldn't tolerate the idea of Eva having him. The ship has sailed, sunk, and been excavated by historians, yet Kat clings to the wreckage with impressive determination. As for Dani, her detour into emotional archaeology becomes even more baffling upon learning she lied to Andre about why she stayed in town. The noble excuse of supporting her father during her mother's sessions evaporates the moment she is spotted orbiting Bill, scavenging for the attention he never provided during their marriage. Meanwhile, she has a devoted husband attempting to stand by her. Should she lose him, the responsibility falls squarely on her shoulders, and the $10 million owed to Joey might be the least poetic justice she encounters.